right, Johnny, at the risk of losing all our remaining listeners.
Oh, you should cut all of this. This was terribly boring, right?
Truly awful.
Yeah.
Maybe restart the show worthy.
Yeah, let's restart the show. Let's do it again.
Okay, if you really want to.
It was so boring. It's such a boring story.
It was.
Like, please, yeah.
All right. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. I'm Tyler here with Johnny. Johnny, what's going on?
Oh, nothing. We definitely didn't just redo this, and I definitely didn't tell the world's most boring story that I decided was so boring we should cut it.
Johnny, do you have a fun anecdote of something that happened to you that maybe you want to describe in, 30 seconds instead of 8 minutes?
No.
And I'm not criticizing your podcasting ability. We're complaining about plumbers named Marlin for a little bit too long.
Nope.
No.
I have nothing to say.
Okay, well, Johnny's having plumbing problems, and we'll leave it at that. So, are we gonna head through that warp zone pipe over to a video game topic right away? Then,
it depends if the warp zone pipe is clogged or not, and where the clog is. We're probably gonna have to jackhammer around level 1, 2 to see if we can clear it out.
I tried.
It's gonna be $5,000 to $7,000.
We were going to do something else. And then someone said something on the Discord. Do you remember what brought this up?
Our episode here?
Yeah.
No,
someone was talking about price history on the Discord. Strange on the Discord was just mentioning that people on Reddit sometimes go crazy about people paying more than it's worth, quote unquote, for video games, even if it's just like a $55 game and someone pays $65 for a nice complete copy of it, which led me down a little rant of like, the market's crazy. What are you talking about? All this stuff is made up. There is no paying $10 more than something's worth because it's not worth $55 to begin with. We're just floating in space, Johnny.
We are. All prices are bullshit.
So I immediately found like a couple examples of like, here, clearly the market doesn't make sense. And I want to make an episode on price history just being bullshit, Johnny.
Okay. A very limited view into why prices are bullshit.
Why prices are bullshit. All the prices were actually, right now in the market, all the prices were made up by Wada Games and Carl Jobst, and there was market manipulation and fraud and deception that led prices to be where they are right now. And that includes Deadly Towers on NES loose cartridges.
Okay. I just want to tell you, though, that the price of an object is whatever the market's willing to pay, buddy. Whatever someone's willing to pay is the price.
But that is like the show.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we've definitely said this before. There are no correct prices for collectibles like video games. We made them all up. And a lot of it is based on price history. So you think of, I don't know, Ninja Gaiden. I'd probably go and like, what's a Ninja Gaiden worth these days? Like $100 complete in box. So if I was in the market for a Ninja Gaiden, what I would do is I'd go to eBay, look at sold listings, be like, all right, it's like what? Like $75 to $130 for a pretty decent one. And then I'd find one, determine where on that $75 to $130 scale I think it probably lays. Maybe I'll bid an extra $5 to over like where I think it lays on the scale. And like that's just a totally normal thing to do in collectibles. Except it's madness because if everyone in the past did that, all our prices are just based on what people were willing to pay before, and there's all these like weird inconsistencies because the market is not efficient. This is not the stock market. It is not a commodities market. It's a weird and wacky collectibles market where nothing has any real value to anyone.
Yeah. True. And also, I just want to comment on the well, it's whatever someone's willing to pay. Yeah, that one object is worth that, but that doesn't necessarily determine the whole price history or what the price of the game is going forward forever. And people forget that and when we go into like what some of these factors are, but that could be a one-off case. That could be a one-off person. That could be someone with a lot of money who's just like, I don't care. Fuck you. I'm winning this thing. Hell or high water, I'll pay $1,000, and the price has always been $300. And then everybody's like, well, I guess the price is now $1,000. And then a ton of games will
when someone says $1,000, then people will be like, well, I guess the price is now $1,100 if I want one.
Yeah, right. So, and that's not always true. Um, one sale is not a trend. As you know, I'm fond of saying one isn't a trend. Okay, but people don't listen, and the market is crazy right now. People are going insane with their prices, and they have been for a while. Things are starting to retract. It's going to be a really interesting time for finances in the next 6 months. We'll see what happens.
Sure. I especially want to see if the world ends or if the world starts to end, if there's depression or if there's a war. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
I'm always looking for the next global cataclysmic event that's going to affect my video game prices, Johnny.
Well, yeah. I mean, just look, stop buying video games and start investing in I-bonds and, treasury notes.
Oh, I only invest in factory sealed, mint condition Nintendo Entertainment System games.
No, like right now, if you buy an I-bond and you're willing to keep it for 5 years, you're going to be cashed out at like 9.8%, and you're going to beat inflation by double. Like, what are you doing?
Cool. That sounds like a lot of fun. You want to make a podcast on I-bonds?
No. In fact, if you want to know a lot about I-bonds, there are plenty of YouTube channels about buying treasury notes and buying bonds rather than investing in the stock market because it's too volatile. Though everyone will tell you over a long enough history, the stock market is always better and always beats inflation. Even if you take your lumps in the beginning, just keep your money there, ride it through. Okay, guys?
But yeah,
look, buying bonds is not about making wealth. It's about maintaining your wealth. Because here's what happens with inflation. Every day that inflation happens, the money you have just sitting in a bank becomes worth less, right? So all that hard money you've got loses value.
That's why I put it into Nintendo games, which only go up in price.
Yes. So just like bonds and stocks, you should invest and make up fake prices for everything. Let's go, Tyler. Tell me about price history.
All right. So I want to rebut someone that I'm not talking to because I don't. So let me make a straw man real quick. All right, okay. Now I'm rebutting the person who's like, no, the prices make sense. It's all based on supply and demand, Tyler. So yes, that is exactly what determines all the prices in the video game market. Supply and demand. The rare stuff is going to be more expensive, and the trendy and hype stuff is going to be more expensive because a lot of people are buying it at once. Just look at the price of Phantom Dust on Xbox after some popular YouTuber made a video on it. Like Phantom Dust went up to like $100, I think, complete in box. A game that's was just like a sleepy little Xbox quote unquote hidden gem that was, I don't know, $25 for the longest time. I don't have the price history of Phantom Dust, but
you keep talking, and I'll find Phantom Dust for you.
So what my point is that this is all bullshit is that the demand factors in such a small and emotional market as collectible video games, I think a lot of the times don't make sense. Where you could see this almost anywhere is if you think of like some just like real good stuff that you would want to have in your collection. And I bet the vast majority of good stuff is between $75 and $500. That's just like where the bulk of really, really good stuff for a game collection is going to lie. And like, yeah, you get the crazy stuff that's like hundreds of dollars, like a complete in box, Gun Knack, Power Blade 2, Little Samson, things like that will be pushed into a higher range. And you can get your Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Blaster Masters complete in box lower than that. But like something you would put on your top shelf, I don't know, what's a game? I'm even like Super Mario Brothers 3 even. I think like a really nice Left Bros copy is probably between $100 and $200, I think. Contra, I'm literally looking at my top shelf. Contra, Castlevania, The Legend of Zelda, like all
Metroid,
these games are going to fall
all the iconic franchises.
Yeah. But even like if you want like interesting kind of uncommon and even rare stuff, I think a lot of it will fall in, especially like modern stuff. If you're looking at like PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, everything except for like the top couple games is going to be probably in that $75 to $500 range. Already, I want to point out, I was literally looking at my NES top shelf that's right next to me, and I was comparing that to the top stuff on PS3. The cardboard Nintendo most collectible, according to Collector's Quest, what are the most collectible consoles? Most collectible system compared to complete in box PS3 games that come on Blu-rays in DVD cases or, Blu-ray cases. Like those shouldn't even be comparable. But because so much of video games in that like really collectible thing is lumped into this very small, non-differentiated price category, I think there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in video games. And another thing I've said before, and this is again my theory that I only back up with confirmation bias. People are usually not willing to spend more than $1,000 for a video game. So you see a lot of games, like a lot of the really top stuff, creep up to that, and then it kind of gets stuck there. Loose Sculptor's Cut is an example I'll bring up right now, where that's like $1,000 right now. And when games do break through, they tend to break through a lot, because when people are willing to spend $1,200 for a game, they're probably willing to spend, $1,700 for a video game. All of that is made up. I don't have evidence to support that right now. But do you agree that, $75 to $500, a good majority of real collectible stuff falls in there?
I think you can get most of the best stuff without the weird stuff. Most of the best stuff that you would want to show people and that most normies would recognize for that price range, yes.
Okay, so I want to bring up my first example of video game prices don't make sense, and why you guys.
Before you do, I'm going to just chime in with the Phantom Dust. So in June, it went from $15 to over $100 CIB in July, and now is retracting down to the $50 range again and going down at a steep pace.
Okay, man, Phantom Dust was $15. What a deal! Really? That game got re-released on Xbox One, I thought. There was no hype at all for owning an original Phantom Dust?
Well, in July of 2014, it spiked to $35 and then fell off a cliff.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think the YouTube video that came out was a guy literally calling it the best game of all time or something. It was the best game that no one's ever played.
And no, wasn't it the best card game that no one's playing or something?
Okay. I mean, maybe it was something like that. I didn't watch the actual video. I do Phantom Dust, totally awesome game, top 10 Xbox game, no question, I think. Anyway.
Go on.
Example that the market is nuts. And I realize there's all these little markets, there's the people that are hyper focused on NES and just do not care about anything else. There are people that are hyper focused on GameCube and just do not care about anything else. There is obviously a generalist video game collector market, but I think I don't know the size of the general video game market compared to all these little specialty markets. So I am making generalizations that maybe are not the best. But as a generalist video game collector, I see things all the time that don't make sense to me. Johnny, Gotcha Force and Complete in Box Mega Man 1. Mega Man, being a cardboard box game, obviously has a lot of variation in terms of condition, and that first print went crazy a few years ago.
Yep.
Both of I would say an average Mega Man around $700. Average Gotcha Force for the GameCube around $700. Johnny, what is Gotcha Force? Can you imagine the gameplay of Gotcha Force in your brain right now?
No. I imagine it's something based off of an anime or something. I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't think I've ever seen gameplay footage of it. I've seen screenshots. I think it looks like Virtua On. I think it's like an arena kind of fighting game, but also the name is a bastardization of gacha. So it has gacha mechanics, which are kind of the things that have ruined free-to-play and mobile gaming for a decade now. But so it's got in my opinion, that's a negative mechanic to have in a game. Anyway, Gotcha Force is, people only want it because it's rare and it's trendy. GameCube, obviously a very popular console to collect right now, and Gotcha Force is, I don't know, top 3 games on GameCube, like Pokemon Box, Cubivore, Gotcha Force, I think, are maybe the top ones. Mega Man is the fucking first Mega Man game. It's decades older. It has history to it. It's the first Mega Man game that's ever. It's on the most collectible console, the NES, the most collectible console. I realize that GameCube is an excellent console, many respects. People will love to collect GameCube forever. It's the fucking GameCube still compared to the NES. Mega Man, first game in the beloved series. People can recall the gameplay of Mega Man. People still play Mega Man to this day. People will play...
Tyler, I'm going to interrupt you because, to be fair, Gotcha Force is a long-running series since the GameCube and has many sequels that are beloved, right?
I don't even know if you're being serious. I could see Gotcha Force.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I know.
I think this is the only one.
Okay. Oh, that makes it... I mean, it's an exclusive. It probably is an exclusive. You know what? Oh, they're both exclusives. Never mind. Okay, so Gotcha Force basically only has value if for someone who is they want to have like a trophy piece on the GameCube to be like, hey, get my Instagram links. I've got Gotcha Force. I'm better than you. But for totally valid reason to own a video game, by the way. But Mega Man is also part of the Capcom Gridbox subset, so it should have additional demand from even people who aren't going for completionist NES sets, even people who aren't going for historic NES games, for people who are just collecting the Capcom subset. And I think in the future, subset collecting is going to be much more popular than full set collecting for a number of reasons, not just price, just the, owning 10,000 video games is not a very feasible thing for a human being to do. And I think subsets will continue to be more popular. I'm still going here, Johnny. Mega Man has collectible complexity that Gotcha Force can only dream of. The amount of variance with Mega Man, there's like a 5-screw Mega Man cartridge to go after. There's the oval seal. There's the first print Dr. White version with the text change on the back. There's the Captain Commando sticker on the front of the box.
Don't forget the ability to have like extreme variance and conditional rarity, whereas a GameCube game is only going to have like great condition or kind of meh condition.
So I do agree with that. So that I'm almost putting that in the Gotcha Force's side, because the thing is, for $700 you're not going to be getting like a mint Mega Man. You'll just be getting a Mega Man, probably a decent one. So I think I was looking at prices like a collector would be happy with either a Gotcha Force or a $700 Mega Man, but like someone really picky about condition would spend more on a Mega Man probably. And someone not picky could get one cheaper. So like all these things combined, like Mega Man is far and away just such a better collectible to me than Gotcha Force. And they're both almost equally rare. Like Complete in Box Mega Man, it's not rare. It's probably not even uncommon, but it doesn't come up all the time. It's not Mega Man 2. And I realize like there's probably fewer copies of Gotcha Force on eBay right now than Complete in Box Mega Man, but it's not going to be a lot. They are both games that are like, you will be hunting for the right copy in either case. Because like you'll find like Gotcha Forces that are either shitty or don't have the manual. And like for like a GameCube game, because it's so easy to find a complete GameCube game, you're just going to throw out all the shitty copies. You're only going to want the right copy. So they both have an element of rarity and scarcity. It just doesn't make sense that they're both $700, Johnny. If Gotcha Force has $700 of GameCube demand, like Mega Man should be like a $3,000 game by comparison.
Well, hey, Tyler, have you considered that maybe Gotcha Force is a great game and got great reviews?
Johnny, is Gotcha Force a great game that got great reviews?
No, it sure isn't. It got really middling to bad reviews.
Okay. All right. No, I'm all down. I like the weird collectible stuff that is just there because it's rare. I've got plenty of it, Johnny. I've got my copy of Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut, the dumbest game ever, because it's not nearly as rare. Sculptor's Cut isn't as rare as Gotcha Force unless you start looking at like boxes and manuals. Yeah. You could buy a sealed Gotcha Force. There are multiple sealed Gotcha Forces on eBay. Like WADA graded from like crazy people, like who is going after a sealed Gotcha Force? But you can get that. Like to get a sealed Mega Man, you're paying like tens of thousands of dollars. That price almost makes sense. Like it's a couple $1,000s for a sealed Gotcha Force and tens of thousands of dollars for a sealed Mega Man. It's like, oh, okay, the sealed market, it starts to make a little more sense to me. Like they understand that Mega Man is obviously a much, much, much better game than Gotcha Force. The complete in box market, same exact price. I don't get it.
There isn't really, if you filtered down to just like Mega Man on eBay, there really isn't that many more Mega Mans than there are complete Gotcha Forces. They're like complete in box. And if you start talking about earlier print Mega Mans, there's even fewer of those than there are Gotcha Forces.
Okay. I'm just thinking about my sealed comparison. I'm wondering like I don't think that the absolute price of sealed games always makes a lot of sense in the past like 3 years. What a surprise saying that. But I'm wondering if like the relative prices of sealed games makes more sense. I don't think so, because the sealed market is so small that it's influenced by the taste of a very small number of people. But like that sealed Mega Man and Super Mario Brothers and Ninja Gaiden, those are going to be a lot more expensive than a sealed Star Soldier or the Magic of Scheherazade.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to get into that.
Okay. Some games are crazy expensive relative to the classics. We got a bunch of new modern stuff that people have hyped up, and not that GameCube is new or modern anymore, but we do have this stuff where the idea of these prices aren't really based on any kind of history, I think is what you're getting at.
I mean, kind of. I mean, there are people who are going to argue GameCube's historic because it's old enough, but like, I'm
not saying historic, but I'm saying like even the overall history of the item. Like Gotcha Force, like Mega Man came out.
Oh, yeah.
You would say that Mega Man built a franchise, right? It did. It built a franchise with dozens of games in it, and branching series, and has been beloved, even if by a small niche group now, for 30 years. Maybe a little longer than that. Gotcha Force came out on the GameCube, didn't do very well, and hasn't done anything since.
Yeah, and like it falls into that category of like, yep, it's a randomly rare video game. And for Gotcha Force specifically, I think it has something because it is like one of those like set completing type video games. But as the world goes on, and as more limited run games and super rare games release all these random ass games that have, print runs of 1,000, the concept of just having a video game that does not matter, that has a print run of 1,000 copies. I'm not saying Gotcha Force has a print run of 1,000. I'm sure it had more. But,
no, because the minimum number of games that you had to print to be a GameCube game, especially from a Capcom, was much higher.
Yeah, but the concept of just like a random rare game is going to matter. It can only matter less as time goes on because there are going to be so many ultra rare editions of things. All right, I want to let's going back to just price history in general. I want to talk about condition, variance, and completeness, because the concept of price history as we know it right now is basically eBay solds and doing a bunch of quick math in your head, or price charting, or God forbid, game value now. Some of these, like, I'm sure price charting has a separate thing for left bros, but you know what? It's Mario 3. There are probably a dozen variants of Super Mario Bros. 3 if you take out your magnifying glass and start looking really close. And then completeness, like you start talking about like if it has all the inserts, if it has the little cartridge baggie, like I pay a premium for games that have the cartridge baggie because you know what? Those games look really nice. And then just condition in general, like there are games that have like a tear and they're worth nothing to me. I will not bid on a game in bad enough condition, but it all just kind of gets mushed into price charting. So we have these historic price graphs, and they're like, it's like taking a sledgehammer to the idea of collecting data rather than like actually even accurately tracking the data that's out there. The thing is with the price history, like you could say like, yeah, it doesn't really matter because, if you're making smart purchases, you're going to go through eBay solds and find like the actual price. Like you're not just going to base things on price charting, but you go to these game events. I was just at the limited run games flea market the other weekend, and like everyone's based on price charting. Their sellers are out there. They're just like, yeah, I literally I took all my games, took price charting, and took 15% off. So if you don't like the price, just make me an offer. It's like, what? You literally you're running a business here, basing your prices on this fucking website. So like it's really common to use this data.
Yeah, I mean that's how I'll be pricing my games.
No, you won't, Johnny. Stop it. I mean, yeah, I would do that because you're not like, you would know if you had something good. You would know if like there was something special about a game that determines it to like that you have to price it correctly. But you're just bringing stuff that you want to get rid of. Basically, you're like, yeah, all right,
yes.
Like price charting minus like 33%. Let's get this stuff out of here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What are you actually doing? Is that I don't want to make it seem like your deals are too good if that's not going to be your prices at Peer.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't even know if I'm bringing anything with me to Portland to sell.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, you know what I do have? Here's what I have, and I'm jacking up the prices quite a bit. I bought 100 box protectors for Nintendo, Super Nintendo, also working for N64, and PlayStation 2 and GameCube games. So, DVD cases. I bought 100 of each of those, and those will be at the booth for $2 each.
Oh, are you serious? Okay, I'm gonna... Yep. I have literally like a huge stack of box protectors that I do not want. I'm going to bring them, but I'm just gonna give them to patrons. Like, if you just want a box protector for something, just take them. I guess you could sell them for $1 each if you really think people are going to be paying for them. But the problem is they're all collector protector cases, collector protector box protectors, and like I don't like them, and I kind of feel bad like sticking other people with them. I just think that they're too thick, and like I don't know that they're doing more good than harm to a game because they are so thick. I think that the flaps might be putting pressure, like where you press the flap into the box. I think that part puts pressure on the top and bottom of a box. So I don't like them. So I'm either going to sell them or give them away at PRGE, but like I don't want to accidentally use them for a game, so I'm just getting rid of them.
Well, now you're undercutting me. Just giving. Yeah,
I'm undercutting you. Free box protectors.
Thanks, Tyler. There goes my whole business model.
I spent like hundreds of dollars on these collector protectors. I thought they were going to be the best box protector. And then,
well, I mean, if they're putting pressure on the box, then that's problematic, right? Like that's a problem.
Yeah.
If not, like them being thick isn't the problem. That's actually the benefit. The flaps being a pain in the ass. Yeah. I mean, but overall, that's still better protection because if it falls or something, that means that flap isn't likely to pop open and your game to fall out.
I mean, the thing is the whole design of these box protectors is, in an ideal box protector, you would have a perfect rectangle prism for the box to be in, but because the ones based with flaps, they have that little, the flap going into the box. It's no longer a perfect rectangular prism, meaning I think that there's more chance for a game to get damaged in a box protector like that than if you bought like a $20 acrylic box protector for every single game, which no one on planet Earth is going to do. So I think I think there is definitely an advantage to having a thinner box protector rather than a thicker one.
I don't know. I think I don't know. That's a pros and cons check sheet for me.
Okay. All right. I mean, just to let everyone listening to the podcast know where I am, I use retro protection and video game box protectors pretty much interchangeably. I think they both have great box protectors. There are cheaper ones you can get. They suck. There are more expensive ones you can get. I don't like them personally. So I'm just sticking with the classics.
All right. Now that we've tangented away from our main point, let's get back to it.
All right. You said something on Collector's Quest once that has stuck with me, Johnny. And it is that people want permission to pay more for things.
They do.
And I think that's the case. I think there are games that have enough demand and and there are people who want to pay money for this and they don't come up very often, but the only thing that stops them from bidding more is that there will be like some price history somewhere that said like, oh, this game only sold for $50 in the past. So even though it doesn't come up very often, maybe I'll bid like 75 instead of 200. But but if there was a sold listing in eBay that said $200, they would immediately be like, oh, I guess maybe I'll bid like 251 on this one.
Yeah, that's how that works. And people aren't considering and people are just considering the price of the item. A lot of times they're forgetting like how rare an item is. And I mean, I've fallen into this trap too. So you're looking at a game that is like unique or something weird. It's a weird variant that's not going to come up very often. You're like, well, only now I sell for like $50. It's like, okay, so that's all I'm going to bid. And then you meet the guy who's out there who's like, well, I'm going to do 60. And then because you were trapped in that little in that thinking, right? Then you missed out. You may, who knows? Depending on the rarity or how weird it is, you may never see it again. Or the next time you see it, maybe it's $300. So, yeah, happens.
This is kind of a mental exercise I do when bidding on a lot of games. So let's say I want a game, a complete in box Nintendo game. Price, it doesn't come up very often. Let's say it comes up a couple times a year, and it sells for $45 to $75, and it's kind of all over the place because like the demand is there sometimes, the demand isn't there sometimes. So I just think if the last sale, say it's sold in 2021, it was the last time it came up, and it had $300. So it's a bunch of $45 and $75 games, and there was a random $300 sale in there. Would that affect how much I'm willing to pay for the game? And why or why not? Like, why am I basing my personal value on this game on a point of price history data that it might not even be real? Like, there are fake sales. Like, look at a game like Poop Slinger. I'm sure there's legitimate demand for Poop Slinger for some reason, But like, I would bet of the 30 or so tracked sales on price charting, someone at some point created like a fake $3,000 sale for that game. Maybe I'm wrong, but the thing is, I don't know. I'm just taking, this price charting data as if it's absolute fact.
No, but people, even if you're looking in eBay solds, the idea that this manipulation happens with fake sales has been going on since video game collecting, since Metroid went from a $10 complete game to a $20 complete game. This level of manipulation has been going on, even at that level, since 2004, and I can only say that, I'll say 2006, because that's for sure when I was looking into this. So I can say with confidence, yeah, that 100% happens. And if it was happening back then, when no one gave a shit about video games, and the stakes weren't hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, then yeah, you can bet now that we're in, like, for games like Poop Slinger, a couple $1,000s, and where everything can be a few $1,000s, absolutely.
Yeah. And so the goal of me thinking about if there was this magical $300 sale in there, and would that affect my value judgment of a game, is because in most cases, if there was a price that was 6 times what all the other prices were, I would think the game is more valuable. But I should be making a value judgment of what the game is worth to me, regardless of whether a sale like that is there or not. So if this the most recent sale of this game, if like the one I'm bidding on goes for $200, am I going to be like, oh well, if it was worth $200 to someone else, maybe I should have bid $250?
Your point is that just because someone else paid $200 does not mean to you that it's worth $200 or $250. You weren't necessarily wrong for not bidding $250. You made an assessment of it, and that was fine. And if the market corrects and keeps going past it, you still have the ability to readjust your value. But at that point in time, given what you made an assessment. Also, given the intrinsic value to you as a collector, you put a value judgment on that. And that value judgment may or may not win a bid.
All right. I think, so the way, besides just the mental exercise of like, what if the price history was nuts for this game? Would that suddenly make it worth more to me? And the way I determine, whether something is worth it to me is by looking at the whole of a market. So I think almost the best way to get a price for a video game is to look at every single video game that isn't the one you want to buy. So if I'm trying to determine the price of Gotcha Force, and I know it's like a $700 game, like what else can I get for $700? What other rare GameCube games are there, and what are they worth? How rare are those games relative to Gotcha Force? Does it make sense to spend $700 on Gotcha Force based on everything in the market? Not based on, okay, it has a consistent price history of $700. So yes, it is quote unquote worth $700, but is that a good price compared to everything else I can get with $700? I could get a complete in box Mega Man for $700, for example, Johnny.
And what we're talking about is the value to you as a collector, not necessarily what the value is in the market, because you may see the market being, look, if you think of the market as a person, think of the market as a person with multiple personalities. You don't know who you're dealing with on every single transaction. Like, maybe they're fine, maybe that one's crazy. Okay, you don't know, especially right now. The market is incredibly volatile on stuff, and I imagine that trend is going to continue into 2023. In fact, I'm nervous about where video games are going to go, because all this stuff has been propped up on sealed and crypto. So now that those markets have contracted so hard, what are we going to see in 2023? Because before, collectibles were kind of like a protected asset. Like, people bought them because they loved them, so they didn't always sell them off, and they would dip in value, but they wouldn't usually crater unless we're talking about comics, which were propped up, that was a bubble. But like these personal items, usually they don't totally retract in recession. But now that we've had this, everything that's gone on in the last couple of years, I'm very nervous what the market outlook is to games. Now, I'm not saying they're totally going to crater, but I think you could definitely see some contraction coming here. So again, when we talk about personal value and intrinsic value to you as a collector versus the market, understand those aren't the same thing.
Sure, and I agree. I think in cases where you're looking at a game like Gotcha Force versus Mega Man, when you disagree with the price history, if you are going to splash out and be like, everyone's wrong, Mega Man's not worth $700. This Mega Man's worth $1,400. If you're gonna spend over $1,000 on a Mega Man, I'm not saying that every single like major franchise or every single popular game is worth more than people are paying for it. But if you are going to be like, this one's particularly nice, I'm going to spend more money on it, you should probably consider, does this game matter at all? What I'm saying is, don't do that when a nice Plumbers Don't Wear Ties comes up, because the market for Plumbers Don't Wear Ties will always be small. It is a niche game. In 20 years, people are not going to know what Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is. In 20 years, people will still know what Mega Man is. So when you're overspending, I think it's worth overspending on games like that. A little tangential to price history, but I'm sure you agree with that.
I mean, I do. I've always said like buying like the one-off stuff that no one like that has no history behind it, has no pop culture holding it in its heart. Then what are you doing?
Yeah, like if you overspend for quote unquote overspend for that Mega Man, you're going to create a point of price history, and because people are stupid, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, a mint Mega Man's worth that now because someone paid for it." And it'll be a lot easier to get your money out of it than in the future when you have your Plumbers Don't Wear Ties and everyone forgets everything about that game.
I was just going to give you an example of something I overpaid for. In 2006.
Oh, you've been going through your eBay history.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a whole episode for us. But I'll give you a quick example. In 2006, I overpaid for Dragonware.
Oh, man, you spent like $30 on it? You idiot.
I paid a sealed Dragonware. I paid $25, and they were going for like 20, but this one looked nice.
Oh, man, that's pretty rough, dude. I'm sorry about that. Was it a 1 HP at least?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry you overpaid for that, but I guess you could probably get at least $50 out of it now.
Yeah, so I'm still fine. I don't know what Dragon Warrior is, but Dragon Warrior is still a franchise that's ongoing. It's not like, it's not one of these niche games. People still know the Dragon Quest franchise, and I think I'm just fine. And you can still find Dragon Warriors sealed, but I think against the market, I think I did all right.
Yeah, and you could have bought, a blue chip collectible like a Quad Run on Atari 2600, a rare mail order game, and one of them sold on Heritage Auctions recently, sealed for $990, I think. So you would have, you would have about been the same. Maybe you lost a little bit of money due to inflation if you went for Quad Run instead of a sealed Dragon Warrior.
Yeah, I mean, mind you, it's not like I'm saying this was an excellent buy or look how good I did. I'm just saying, like, sometimes when you overspend, it's going to be time. A long enough timeline is in video game collecting your friend. At least it has been. We'll see if that is true. But like, if you bought stuff like in the last 2 years, and let's say the market retracts 50%, give it 10 more years and we'll see where you are. But just don't get too panicky.
John, I got another example of the market not making sense. It's one you brought up right before this episode.
Yeah.
You told me that the Super Nintendo 3DS XL sells for $400. Not sealed, not complete in box, the loose console?
Yeah, it can sell for up to between $300 and $400. And a sealed console, not a sealed, but an open one, you can get for between, like, with box and everything, for like $500 to $700. Yeah, that's
Johnny,
true.
what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, don't you, Tyler? It looks like a Super Nintendo.
I don't care how rare it is. It's a tribute to the real Super Nintendo.
Well, Tyler, clearly, if you're willing to spend $700, or $400 on this, let's go with $600. Let's say $600 for a good condition one in box. Then clearly, for a good condition Super Nintendo in box, you gotta be willing to pay what, like $1,000, $2,000?
2,000, at least 2,000, like 5,000 if a 3DS is worth 600.
So let me tell you an auction you can buy right now. So there's a nice superset. It's complete in box. It has the foam. It's got the sticker for Mario World. I'm sorry, Mario All-Stars on it. It comes with
That's a
Super
good
Mario
variant.
World.
2 Mario games in one.
Yeah. Yes. So it's got Super Mario World in there, and then it's got the additional cart for Mario All-Stars. Box is in okay shape. Shipped $350.
Johnny, that doesn't make sense. What?
But this one looks like a Super Nintendo. I want it.
Handheld variant hardware people, I realize this is like the market for handheld special editions is like out of control. I understand that these people are not in the Super Nintendo market, but man, on in like a vacuum, that is just absolutely nuts to me. And you didn't even like go data mining for this. You're just like, oh yeah, I've got an example of something that's ridiculous.
No, you're just like, what's something ridiculous? And this is something that came to my head.
All right.
Now maybe, to be fair, maybe it's very scarce, right? Maybe it's very rare.
Are you about to tell me it's not?
Well, I'm just going to go look at eBay right now and just like see how many I can count that are available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 6 complete in box ones immediately.
Johnny, that's...
So, 7. And I'm not even sorted high to low. 8, 9, 10,
I mean,
11.
like...
Hold on, I'm still counting. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, hold on. 19, 20, 21, 22. 22, Tyler.
Oh, man. All right. Like,
are available. Considered in... And that's complete in box. Oh, I'm sorry, 23. I missed that one. 24. I missed that one too because I was scrolling fast. And that's not the loose ones, Tyler.
I know. That's complete in box or maybe sealed. I don't, but I can almost understand like if it was a Zelda special edition because there's no alternative to a Zelda special edition. The person buying that is the person who buys everything Zelda ever. So they just have to have everything. But the person buying a Super Nintendo 3DS is probably someone who's just into Super Nintendo. And I realized, like, yes, they probably have a box Super Nintendo. You know what you can do instead? You can buy another fucking Super Nintendo because there's like a dozen variants of that console.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fit on my shelf. You know what? The argument that it doesn't fit on your shelf, Super Nintendo, like the console box, like my favorite console box size. Action sets, like a little bit too big. Deluxe sets are like clearly like way too big. SNES Super sets, like they're pretty nice size. They're kind of slim.
Yeah.
Like them.
They'll fit on most shelves and not have like weird overhang. You're not worried about it.
Yeah, super good.
Little too tall. I wish.
Yeah.
Like if you get down to like the the small console, the revised console, then you get into a really good size.
Yeah, those are so ugly. I don't want that.
Little fat though. A little fat for what they are.
No, but Collector's Quest, big thumbs up to the SNES Super Set. Good collectible for the size.
Yes. So anyways, that's just like, that's like a weird thing because just people are like, man, I love the Super Nintendo so much. I'm going to spend this much money on this DS. And you're like, I'm 3DS XL. But you're like, well, you could just get the Super Nintendo. So, and I no judgment if you went out and spent this money on it. It's fine. Like, it's cool. I wish it was $200. I would buy one, but at like $650, I go,
no, I'm judging you. If you're spending $650 on a 3DS XL, you better have like the sickest handheld collection. If you don't have a complete in box Game Boy, like with the green screen on the front, like the first boxed Game Boy, and you're splashing out $650 for a 3DS, I'm judging you.
Well, that's my next example, right? If you're just buying this because you like got a handheld collection and you don't have like, man, you can go buy, for this money, you can buy the original Game Boy with the Zelda sticker on it. Like there's a lot you can go get. There's a lot in the handheld space of cool consoles you can go get. But also, like special edition handhelds are always weird. If you were like, oh, I got the Persona one, like, okay, I get it. You got the Metroid one, you spent money, like you said, the Zelda one. I get it. Those are the only things. But this is merely a representation of Super Nintendo, a thing you can actually just go get.
All right.
It's very confusing.
Johnny, I don't want to be serious about judging people for their purchases, except for we'll get to one that I honestly will judge people for. This is still a Nintendo thing. I don't hate your purchase. I think it should be cheaper, but the market's crazy. All right, let's get into an entirely different category of prices. I don't think that makes sense, and it's just loose first complete in box, first sealed, and sealed has gone off the rails. So let's just say loose versus complete in box prices. You can look at a historical graph of basically any console, and even like disc consoles, which is weird. But let's just stick to the ones that matter, like NES, Super Nintendo, N64, Sega. A complete in box game, which I recognize price history, it's like an average condition complete in box game, is about double the price of a cartridge. And you go to now there's been more differentiation, and we've said in the past on Collector's Quest, like, complete in box games do not cost enough. And now an average complete in box game is like 3 times the price. And on top of that, like, a lot of the super mint stuff has just been snapped up. Whereas, like, you know, in the past, you used to be able to like browse eBay until like a super nice one came up, and you would pay like a small premium over the going rate, and it made no sense. Even considering all of that, Johnny, I don't think the divide between loose and complete games is big enough. 3 times the price of a cartridge to get a complete like Sega Genesis game, like, what are you talking about? That's just a bad value. And I'm picking on Sega Genesis loose carts because it's tradition. But you look at even Sonic the Hedgehog, there are going to be more than 3 times the number of cartridges than complete in box copies. And Sonic the Hedgehog comes in a hard plastic case that people would have saved, let alone something like a Super Nintendo game that literally comes in a package that is garbage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I agree about this. We did a whole episode once upon a time where I tried to tell people, look at the divide between the cost of a box game and or a complete in box game versus just a cart. See how close the prices are, and then, you know, if you're a cart collector, maybe just go buy the complete one because you're getting a deal on the box, and that you could always sell. Like, you know, I think this.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I agree. I'm a cartridge collector in a lot of ways. I have a full NES set minus Stadium Events. That's all cartridges. And I got a Super Nintendo set. That's all cartridges. But that wasn't like a good value to buy that. I should have instead bought the best 250 Super Nintendo games complete in box rather than all of them loose, and I would have a much better collection. And I have like all the good stuff.
Set collecting is a bad value proposition. Stop
set collecting, separate conversation. Yes, don't collect sets. Go. Bird Dog Gaming has his YouTube channel. He's like, here's some things that set collectors do. You probably shouldn't do it. It's really funny.
He just like listens to all the things that we did and was like, well, I'll make a list of what these dummies did and tell everyone they shouldn't.
And so even beyond that, so you look at Mario Kart 64, there's going to be so many more cartridges than complete in box games. And that's like a super common game. There are millions of copies of Mario Kart 64. But even you can't just count the number of cartridges, number of boxes, and say, okay, the box is this rare, the cartridge is this rare, so the box is, this times rarer, then the cartridge should be worth this times the price. Because that price charting box price is that's the average price. And you know what? The average box, probably there's a good portion of collectors that the average box, people are just going to pass on it. Because you know what? People who want Mario Kart 64, maybe they don't need like a 9 out of 10, but they probably want like, a 7 out of 10. They want like a decent Mario Kart 64 box. So you cut off like the bottom half of Mario Kart 64 boxes. You add a box and it doesn't add like just more rarity. It adds exponential complexity to the collecting equation here. There's more conditional variance between things, but there's also new variants, and I don't even know the Mario Kart variants. I mean, in my brain, there are none, but I'm learning that like N64 variants are blowing my mind. But there's more materials, there's registration cards, there's posters, there's all this stuff that you don't have to think about with a cartridge, so it's so much more complex, there's so many more conditional factors to think about, and yet still it is like basically... Even the flat rarity, I think, even if all that didn't exist, I think the flat rarity of cardboard compared to cartridges, the price difference is not big enough. But when you add all that stuff in, like 100% completeness and near mint condition games, it just doesn't make any sense.
No, makes no sense. Also, the other thing people do is just go, okay, there are 3 components to a game: the cart, the box, the manual. So everything is worth 1/3 of the total cost of a complete one. You're like,
I don't think that's 100% the case. I think it was Sega Genesis especially. Like, there are a lot of manuals
they put a
50%
premium on manuals
the
there,
price.
but on a lot of cases, like when you see people pricing it out, like individually, they'll do that. They'll like work that math, and there's no like thought. Like a box is the thing least likely for Super Nintendo is the thing that's least likely to continue existing. Manuals should be found. Condition will vary. Carts should be the thing you find the most of. But it goes, most common cart, less common manuals, less common than that boxes. But that's not how the pricing works out.
Another thing I think is worth considering is that the average cartridge will probably make a collector happy. And I realize, like, if you're like if you're like super mint, like I don't want a scratch on the gray part of my NES cartridge, nothing will make you happy. But like if I looked up Contra, I bet the 9 out of 10 of the first cartridges that come up, I'd be fine with. Like, as long as they don't have like a tear or something wrong with the cartridge, I'm pretty much fine with something if there's no damage. And a lot of cartridges are durable things. They don't have a lot of damage to them. But again, I wouldn't be happy with the average condition box. Complete box games should be like 20 times what a cartridge costs, Johnny. That's what I'm saying here.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I believe in 20 times, but So are box games too expensive, or carts overpriced?
No, I think boxes are underpriced, and I think because there are so many cartridges that people would be happy to have in their collection, like you can get a nice condition copy of Contra. I think it's great they can get a cheap, nice condition copy of Contra, and it's easy. But I think there are a lot of Contra's a bad example because that game has gone up in price complete in box so much recently, but I think it's one of those things where like the most popular Batman books of all times, especially from like the 90s and the 80s, you go on eBay and get them for $4. And I think there's a lot of video game cartridges that
every
will
Nightfall
be like that.
Comic that ever exists, nothing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like those Nightfall books cost nothing. You can get entire runs of them for $20. And I think a lot of cartridges will be like that. But I don't think like boxed Super Mario 64s will be, a small multiple more than a cartridge forever. I mean, this is a lot more opinion based than prices don't make sense based. But I mean, I think there's a lot of factors that make boxes more complex and scarcer than cartridges. I mean, it's obvious, but I just think that the math of it being more or less 3 times the price of a cartridge still doesn't make sense. And I know people don't want to hear that because boxes have already gone up in price so much over the past 3 years. Johnny, I don't think we're hyping boxes. I don't think the divide is big enough.
So let me ask you. Okay. So Final Fantasy II, we'll use my favorite Super Nintendo game, $60-ish for a cart and sold. And now we're seeing some middling to okay boxes, like mainly okay, completes that have sold for around $200. And that includes the manual and the map. You think that divide is good? I
personally probably not. Like
I think that's terrible.
Are there that many boxed copies compared to cartridges? Like I recognize there's going to be a decent number of Final Fantasy 2s, but there's going to be a ton of cartridges, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more cartridges. I mean, it's a common game. It's not like super rare. But so here's a nice one that went for $300, and it's got everything. So it's got the inserts, the reg card, the map in a nice condition, manual in nice condition. It went for $300. So think about that. What are the prices of these components? If the cost of a cart is $60, then that's what I'm saying. Like people are just chunking it out into like they're just dividing all the parts equally, and that does not make sense. It does not make sense.
I agree with
like
that.
The
and
reg card and stuff. It's not like the reg card, while being more rare in a complete box game. Like yes, you got your weird reg card collectors like Tyler, or people trying to get it the most complete. But that reg card doesn't really do anything for the game. Like when you pull it out and you're like, oh, look at the cool stuff. But if you're like valuing the map, which always gets destroyed because those things rip, at the same as the manual and the box, like that, these things don't make sense. Like consider what that divide truly looks like. So yeah, I'm telling you I agree with you because people are still just cutting this up on games as common as Final Fantasy II, and that does not make sense because if you look at all these copies of Final Fantasy II that have the reg card and all the extra inserts, few and far between. Or if they are way more expensive. So if you're finding one for like $300 against a place where you could just buy the card for $60, yeah, don't do that.
So, Johnny, you're bringing up an example of a game that I would argue has the most eyes on it for price differentiating between carts and boxes right now. Like the mega popular stuff, the Mario's, Zelda's, Final Fantasy, those are the things where you're seeing boxed copies that are now like 6 to 10 times what a cartridge goes for because there has been so many people snapping games like that up. But when you go deeper into libraries, let me bring up a game that
I agree, but I'm bringing it up because even here on a game where that has happened, it's still not enough if you consider all the pieces and
I do agree.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to illustrate.
To be clear, I don't want games to be more expensive.
No.
I want to own all the video games. This is just, my thinking on obviously carts versus box copies has changed in the past few years. I've definitely become a lot more picky on condition and completeness. And I think like comparing like how easy it was to get a cartridge of a game versus now where I want like an 8 out of 10 complete in box game, hopefully with all the stuff in it, like it's a lot harder to get stuff when you're shopping for that.
Dude, I'm just telling you, going through my history and like seeing all these games, like what I paid for them, it's just, and then looking at the prices of those games now, it's a tragedy.
It's a tragedy? Why?
Because everything is so much more expensive now. It's so much more expensive.
Johnny, let me bring up an example. This is an unplanned example. Whoa, because you brought up Final Fantasy II, and like, yeah, to get a really nice complete Final Fantasy II, you're saying is like 6 times the price of a cartridge, 5-6 times the price. We were gonna bring this up on the show before. Arkista's Ring on NES sells for
our spec.
It's what?
It's our spec pick.
It's our spec pick. Did we bring this up? I don't remember if we actually brought it up.
I don't know if we ever
did.
We just talked about this.
This game is like a $50 cartridge, and the price history has it at $150 complete. So 3 times rarer complete in box than loose. There are 10, maybe probably 12 cartridges on eBay, like a bunch of fine cartridges you can get. You can get like probably a near mint cartridge for $60, $65. There are 0 complete in box copies. There is one, but like the entire front of the box was worn off. 0. It is literally infinitely more rare right now to get a complete in box copy than a cartridge. It's like,
and the box has no premium.
The box, it should be $1,000 if this is a $60 cartridge, or the cartridge price should be going down. It like the relative rarity of these just does not make sense.
So yeah, Arkista's Ring, a sold one, a complete manual cart box, sold for $98 in August. In July, it sold for $103. That was box and manual only. And then a complete one with the poster went for $165.
Also, that was a buy it now. Someone put a buy it now, $98? What are you, out of your mind? This game is selling for like $60 loose.
Yep.
What?
Well, they did the math on it.
On eBay, guys. You guys are crazy. This is like a decent copy. It's an X rental, but like the box is intact. It's fine.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, but also there is, if we're talking about the demand curve, there's always going to be more demand for a cart, right? Because that's the thing that people play. Even if the other stuff is more rare.
Yeah, and I don't think everything should be I understand there's a big factor of demand in these equations. But
I just wanted to bring that up before someone was like, they didn't consider demand. Like,
yes. More people are just trying to complete their loose NES sets. I mean, in that sense, like everything we're saying doesn't make sense. Like there's a certain amount of supply, there's a certain amount of demand, and the market makes the price happen. So we are wrong for saying any price is wrong. But yeah, some of these prices are wrong, Johnny. I don't care. I don't care. I'm sorry. There is one. There's a complete in box Arkista's Ring in Canada.
It was 74 cents shipping, dude.
It's not great. Yeah, 74 cents shipping. That's definitely going to ship in a bubble mailer.
Yeah. There's also a sealed one for $1,400.
It's probably a great deal.
Probably not.
All right, Johnny. I want to move on so we can get the show over with before 3 hours to the worst deal in video games. You know, I was going to say the worst deal in modern games. I think it might be the worst deal in video games. And I'm going to judge you for having
like you say that, and that's given the criteria that we just put in this episode. As far as market values and whether it could sell, it might be a fine deal.
Poop Slinger for the PlayStation 4, $3,000 is the average price-ish of what these are selling for. Compare that to literally any other game or console you could buy in video games and put on the top of your shelf, and you're going to buy Poop Slinger, and there are people who buy these for investment. They're like, this is it. This is going to be the top PS4 game. It can only go up from here.
Tyler?
Johnny.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. And I'm even putting aside the fact that more than 84 copies of this game exist. There are tweets from Limited Rare Games, a joke company, that are like, we only sold 84 copies of this. The concept of 84 copies of Poop Slinger existing is wrong. But even regardless of that, let's say that only 84 copies exist, it's still just random rare trash. There will always be the next greatest, rarest limited edition game. There's going to be some stupid joke release on the PlayStation 5. It might be from Limited Rare Games. It might be from another stupid-ass company that's like, oh, we only made 83 copies of this dumb game. The fuck are people doing, Johnny?
I don't know. I don't know. For
$3,000, I went on Heritage Auctions and I'm like, all right, what can I get on NES? And I'm sorry, guys, we always come back to NES. It's the best console. It's always going to be the best console.
It's not the best console.
It's not the best console. Famicom's the best console. I know. But
Super Nintendo, best console.
In the hearts and minds of Nintendo fans. Shut up. Prices prove you wrong. People don't collect Super Nintendo as hard as they collect either NES or N64.
I mean, people collect Switch real hard right now. Maybe harder than NES. So
John,
is that the best console?
You have a complete box Sculptor's Cut?
I do.
Yeah, of course you do. You have full sets. I want you to post your Sculptor's Cut and your Mountain Bike Rally Speed Racer back to back, and count how many Instagram likes you get, and you'll get more for Sculptor's Cut.
I know.
Oh, no one wants your stupid Super Nintendo. Anyway, on the NES sealed, like the sealed market's out of control now, right? I understand we're in a correction, but you could get a Super Mario Brothers 2 sealed, a Super Mario Brothers 3 sealed. You can get both of those for less than $3,000. If you go for like okay condition ones, Right Bros. You can get a Tetris in okay condition for like $1,500. You can get a Zelda 2, like a 7.0A, which isn't great, but like that's fine for, I think, most collectors for a sealed Zelda game. $1,800. And you're gonna buy fucking Poop Slinger on, I don't care what the Pop Report says.
But Tyler, you could get a Super Nintendo 3DS XL for $600.
Johnny, there's a game I told you to buy. It's still in stock. It's for the Game Boy. A Game Boy. You know what? I think in my mind, there's like a trinity of Nintendo. The Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy era. Well, obviously, I'm like what? I'm like 34 or something. That's obviously a nostalgic era for me. Fuck nostalgia. I think nostalgia is the biggest pile of bullshit. I grew up on Sega games anyway, but those three consoles are just such the bedrock of everything Nintendo's based on. There's a new Game Boy game, Johnny. It's called Whole Lotta Red. It's a horror game. It looks cool. It comes in a Game Boy box. I'm pretty sure they can't even legally use the Game Boy logo, but they fucking did. The art is good. It's limited to 100 copies. They're numbered. Ooh. It's $68. You can go get one right now. If you want a game that is limited to 100 copies, they exist. They are out there. There will always be more of them. Poop Slinger is just a random one. Yes, Sony licensing, fucking whatever. There are games as rare as Poop Slinger, and they cost nothing. Go get them.
I mean, should I though?
I really think you should buy Whole Lotta Red. I think that game actually looks kind of cool. There's a bunch of these like horror Game Boy games coming out. I think there were better Game Boy homebrew dev tools that came out in the past few years, and a lot of people have been using them to make horror games. which is really cool. And Johnny, if anyone should collect them, you should. A lot of people send me these all the time because I'm into NES homebrew. But I kind of already made a decision with myself that since I'm into homebrew, I have to limit myself to NES just because if I'm into all homebrew, like I wouldn't have money for anything else other than all the homebrew games coming out on like Sega, Game Boy, and everything. Anyway, you should buy a whole lot of red. Johnny, limited to 100. It's just as rare as Poop Slinger.
That's true. I mean,
in a literal sense, in how many copies actually exist on planet Earth, is probably rarer than Poop Slinger. Anyway, I want to make one more point about Poop Slinger just because I think it is the dumbest thing you could buy in games right now. And, I recognize there's an Instagram ability to it. It has a lot of, as rare as every other game is, like, I can't talk to the average modern game collector on the street. They're not going to know what Whole Lotta Red on Game Boy is. They are probably going to know what Poop Slinger is, especially if there's someone who's into, like, the limited run kind of hype game crowd. I want to point out that Poop Slinger, people are searching for the next Stadium events. They're like, Poop Slinger is the best thing. Spend anything on it. It's going to be the best thing. Johnny, the modern Stadium events already exists, and it's NBA Elite 11. And do you know why I know that? It's because there are people listening to this podcast right now, and they have a Poop Slinger. And you know what? They don't have an NBA Elite 11 because that game is genuinely fucking impossible to get. People collect.
I think you can get one for like $1,000.
The fuck are you talking about? You can't. No, there's no way. You're out of your mind.
$4,000.
I still don't believe you. Are you sure it's the game and not just a display case? Because people spend thousands of dollars for the display case.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just.
I'm looking at this one on eBay. Yeah, look, it's an empty case for $4,000.
Yeah. True.
And I'm not making like
this game was never actually released, so.
Yeah, like I understand. Like I think there is an level of interest to Poop Slinger. Like when you went to buy Poop Slinger, it took you to like a very like an intentionally GeoCities shady, like I think Russian text looking website. It was meant to look like you weren't going to get a game if you bought something from them, and they had a link to like a PayPal thing. Like I do think it is genuinely interesting how Poop Slinger was distributed. But the best modern game from just a pure rarity, like people should not own this sense, exists, and it is NBA Elite 11. And I understand NBA Elite 11 is more expensive than Poop Slinger, but it is so much better than Poop Slinger in my opinion, because literally almost no one has this game.
Yeah,
and
but if you show me,
I could go
NBA
search for
Elite...
Poop Slinger on eBay, and I could buy one right now.
Yeah, but
so why is it $3,000 if I could buy one when I literally can't buy an NBA Elite 11?
Yeah, but if you show me NBA Elite 11, I'm just going to be like, boring basketball.
I mean, yeah, you could do the same thing with Stadium events. I mean, I agree that randomly rare games, for the most part, are overrated because there will only ever be more of them. But in the modern era, NBA Elite 11 is literally the best one. So I think Poop Slinger is upper tier of like the randomly rare stuff. I think there is a level of interest there. And I think NBA Elite 11 is probably the tops. As dumb as it is, no one fucking has it. It exists, but no one has it. A paradox. If you're listening to this podcast and you have NBA Elite 11, you can go give yourself the big old Collector's Quest pat on the back.
Yeah. We have hugs for you.
If anyone doesn't know, yeah, NBA Elite 11, it was produced. The demo came out to digital download services. This was a PS3, Xbox 360 game. And the demo was like so horrendously broken, or like review copies got out and the game was so horrendously broken, it became a meme and they pulled the game from sale. They're like, you know what? Let's not release NBA Elite 11 and tarnish our brand image. That's how bad the game was.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that happened.
All right. Do you have anything else to say about what else you could get for $3,000 instead of Poop Slinger?
It's like literally anything. I'm going to go ahead and just look around my office and look at all my favorite things and be like, yeah, you could literally, like all the cool consoles that ever existed. You might even be able to get yourself an Outback Joey for $3,000.
Yeah, another stupid rare game that.
Yeah.
But like, I'm back looking at my top shelf. Like, all right, Left Bros Mario 3, you can get Super Mario Brothers, a Super Mario Brothers 2, a Contra, a white button, Mike Tyson's Punch Out, all 3 Castlevania games, including a hang tab, I bet all that combined is not $3,000. Or even if it is $3,000, that shelf way better than Poop Slinger. I don't care.
You can buy all the Mega Man games on the NES, complete in box.
All right. I don't want to, VG Collectaholic has a Poop Slinger, and I think he probably has the Bubble Mailer too. Don't want to make him feel bad.
Oh yeah, don't.
He does
forget
have everything.
That Bubble Mailer. All you idiots who threw away that Bubble Mailer could have got $1,000.
I kept a Bubble Mailer recently. I forgot for which game. It might have been a homebrew, but I felt like a real hoarder for doing that. But you know what? Bubble Mailer is kind of cool. By definition, Johnny, the Bubble Mailer is rarer than the game itself. So you know what? Maybe the Bubble Mailer should be worth more than $350.
We do love our packaging here on Collector's Quest. Hey, by the way, a really nice Nintendo Deluxe set, less than $3,000.
Johnny, an NES pre-deluxe set, the quote-unquote test market one that doesn't have Rob on the front is, $750 maybe like $1,000, a little bit more for like a really nice one. Then you get a super set, you get a complete in box N64. I'm just doing like some quick price math in my head. Complete in box GameCube, complete in box Wii. You could probably get every main Nintendo console complete in box from NES to Switch for less than the cost of Poop Slinger. And I realized, there's a lot more of those, but fuck it. Having every Nintendo console complete in box is better than Poop Slinger.
Yeah.
All right.
You can get a fleet of Super Nintendo RPGs. This episode
literally just made you jump on Poop Slinger. Just call us jealous, please.
Yeah, that's call us poor and call us jealous. That's what it comes down to. Like, really, this episode is just called Dumping on Poop Slinger and Gotcha Force.
That too. I wanted to really quickly bring up something that already everyone thinks is a dumb thing to buy, Johnny. Super Breakout from
oh my God, these things.
Limited Run Games, this new Atari thing. This might not be Limited Run Games. It might be Atari, and then Limited Run Games is distributing this. But they're putting out a box set of 10 re-released Atari games for $100 each. And they're all the classics. It's got Adventure, it's got Super Breakout, it's got Asteroids, it's got Warlords. It's like, it's not like everything on Atari, because like you want some Activision in your Atari mix. But yeah, it's 10 great games. And when you line them up on a shelf, I think it says Atari 50 on it. So it becomes one great box set. So if you buy one, you basically have to buy all of them for $1,000.
Wait, I thought it was $100 for all of them because they're just garbage Atari games.
It is $100 each re-released game. So Super Breakout is one that's currently for sale right now, Johnny, for $100. Johnny, you can go on eBay and you could get a real Super Breakout sealed for $30 to $50. And Super Breakout is not like a uniquely available new old stock Atari game. There's a lot of new old stock available Atari games. The real thing is half the price of the reissue. What, Johnny, in what universe are we living in? This isn't price history. This is just like comparison prices of like two different things that don't make sense. But what the fuck is going on? People,
I have no idea.
I'm on Atari Age, and like people obviously think this is a joke. But people will buy this. There are people who are going to spend $1,000 on this weird reissue Atari thing. And you know what? If you think it's cool, fine. You get the real thing for half the price. It's like if there's like a Beatles, like the first Beatles album ever, if that's like a $500 album, I have literally no concept of vinyl prices. And then they made a limited edition one that cost $1,000. What are you talking about, Johnny?
Tyler, I don't know. This is like the least favorite thing that we talk about on the episodes, that like people hate us for it. They hate us for it.
I know.
They don't want to hear us telling them not to buy these weird things. They're like, these are cool.
Fucking
haters.
Another limited run games release thing. I don't know if this was them or like, distributed through them kind of thing. They had Rendering Ranger R2. That's like a $2,000 Super Famicom game, maybe more. And beyond that, it's like a game you can't get because it is so rare. It's like a game that does not come up. And they like re-released like a $60 version of it. That's fucking cool. People want to own cool. Not only the first time this has ever been released.
In an English, it's like the first time released in English. Yeah, cool.
It's fucking awesome.
I thought it was cool. Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Releasing an English game in English again for double the price. I could get the original New Old Stock. What does it make? Go buy Rendering Ranger. I think Rendering Ranger sold out. You guys fucked up. I didn't buy one, but yeah, that's a cool release.
Did it sell out?
Yeah, that Rendering Ranger I don't think you can get anymore.
Oh, that's a shame. Because that was like sometimes they do something cool and then it's a shame when people miss the cool thing and then get stuck with.
Yeah, there's no special this is at oh no, it's a crossover between Zigguray and Limited Run. There's no like special cartridge, like you can't open like the special pink variant cartridge. You just buy Rendering Ranger R2 and you get a nice little black cartridge and that's it. It's fucking awesome. Literally, like, this is over a $2,000 game if you were going to buy the Japanese version. And it's the first time it's released in English.
Yeah,
Put it on your set list. It's part of the SNES set now.
Yep, I tried to buy this a couple of times, actually, the original one.
Don't worry, like, half of them are going to be on eBay immediately. You'll be able to get one. You're probably going to have to pay a premium. But you know what? Go get it, Johnny. You're a Super Nintendo guy.
Anyways, yeah, I agree. It's a shame that game is gone already. That's weird.
It's like this limited run or something. I'm sure they had an open pre-order for it though, Johnny. You fucked up. Just admit you fucked up and you're jealous of everyone's limited run games that they got before you because you didn't click fast enough.
No, I bought it, Tyler.
What do you mean you bought it?
I bought Rendering Ranger.
I thought you said you didn't buy it.
No, I said I did buy it.
Good job. All right, never mind. Good job.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about?
All right. Well, Johnny, if I'm going to have people take away anything from me complaining about what video games cost, the main thing I'm going to say is the best thing you can do for price history is to ignore the price history of whatever it is you're buying and try to just guess what that game should cost relative to how much it costs to buy everything else. Whether it's every other GameCube game or every other video game period, make up a price and then you could see if that game is maybe priced too high or too low. Maybe you come up with a price that's 7 times what the going rate is and they're like, oh man, everyone's an idiot. Everyone's missing out. I do that in Japan all the time. I'll tell you a game I just bought that I just got that I think is quote unquote underpriced. My price was like 7 times higher than what I want it for, and it's a rare game.
All right, tell us.
Well, Johnny, we got to go into the collector's question first. Oh, yeah, the part of the show.
All right, let's talk about collector's question. No, seriously, you got a question for us?
You know I do.
Woo! I love me a question. Good time to tell everybody, hey, we're going to be in Portland coming up soon, so hope to see you guys there. We do have a booth. Tyler won't be there. He'll be wandering the show floor until he needs a break. But I will be there, and Mr. CIB will also be there. He has some good stuff for sale, and as I said before, I will have overpriced box protectors. But if you're a patron, you just tell me, and I'll hook you up.
Tiger Wolf asks, pick a console or handheld you'll never do a So You Want to Collect episode for. What's a good collecting tip for that console or handheld?
That we'll never do one for? I mean, we did it for the R-Zone, so is anything off limits?
I mean, we're never going to do a Magnavox So You Want to Collect Magnavox Odyssey. We did Odyssey 2, and it was like literally the worst episode of all time.
No, I mean, didn't have as many views as other episodes.
I know. It was no Star Wars episode. But yeah, there are systems we'll probably never do a So You Want to Collect for. So give someone a tip, Johnny. What do you got?
Well, what's the system we're picking? Like obscure system, like weird system, or one we just don't think we'll get to? Sega Pico. Here we go. Sega Pico. We're not doing the Sega Pico. Go ahead and go buy the Sonic game on there, okay? Because it's a Sonic game and it's unique.
No, there's not a first appearance in there. I think I saw a Japanese copy of that Pico game because I go through Japanese Pico listings and I'm like, is there a reason I should buy this Sonic game? And I decided, no, there's no reason I should buy this Sonic game. Pico collecting tips. Sega re-released the Pico in the mid-2000s in Japan. It's called something else. It's called like something else Pico. I don't remember exactly what it is. But there's I think 3 Pokemon games on that re-released Pico.
Yep.
I would bet anything those are the rarest Pokemon games ever made. And like they're like $30. So there you go. You can go get the rarest Pokemon games ever made. Fuck all these people spending $400 on a Pokemon Emerald.
Yeah, there's also what's it called? Pico Pokemon system.
Oh, is there? Wow.
Yep.
I mean, wow. That sure is something I never want to collect because I sure don't like the Sega Pico. But
it looks a lot like the 3DS. That's just Pikachu's face, or the GBA. It looks a lot like that.
Huh. All right. I guess if anyone doesn't know, Pico is a video game system in the loosest sense. I mean, it's a video game system. It has cartridge books. You plug this like activity book into the console and you have a stylus, and it's almost like if Dora the Explorer made a video game console, the Sega Pico would be it. You're like tapping things in a book. I don't know exactly how it works, honestly, but it's
called the Bina.
For small children.
It's called the Bina, by the way.
That's what it is.
System.
Yes.
And there are 4 games at least.
Oh, 4 Pokemon games?
At least.
Oh, you know what? I bet whatever the rarest one is, like I bet no one has it. You guys don't have it. No one listening to the show has the rarest Sega Pico Pokemon game. Everyone go buy it all at once.
Sega Pico Pokemon Pocket Monsters Catch the Numbers.
Woo!
You can get that for like $100.
Sounds
and
overpriced, but maybe the price history is wrong. And when I said $30, really everyone should, just go get those Pico games.
Or the Bina games, just so
right,
so you
great,
know.
Great. We got that's so you want to collect Sega Pico. We're never going to do it. Yeah. Daddy Mulk says, when collecting variants, if some components of said variant are exactly identical to your main copy, do you feel compelled to own a complete in-box copy of a variant or just the components that are different?
So like if a game was re-released, or there was 2 releases, but the cart was exactly the same, but maybe the box, like let's say for the Super Nintendo, Zombies Ate My Neighbors, where only the box is the unique piece.
Sure.
Do I feel compelled to put a cartridge I already own in that?
Would you buy just the box and be happy because the internals are the same as the Zombies Ate My Neighbors that you already own?
I would mildly be happy. I mean, I would want to correct that later, just because I don't want to keep a bunch of empty boxes laying around.
The longer I collect, the more every component has variants that we don't realize. I mean, we bring this up all the time, but like DVD cases, there are a lot of variants for just simple things like DVD cases. There are probably things like DVD disc variants that no one is even paying attention to in the slightest. Like Dan Gomez is probably out here with a magnifying glass looking at all these little codes on Xbox games that no one cares about. But like for the most part, no one cares about DVD variants. So because of the fact that if I piece something together, I am very likely to get it wrong. I basically only want a complete in-box game now. And you know what? Someone else could have pieced it together wrong. Like, there's only so much I could do about that. But yeah, I something I brought up in the past. I own a limited edition Mark Echo's Getting Up on the original Xbox, and it doesn't have the manual. And I never felt compelled to go get a manual for it, because I have another copy of Mark Echo's Getting Up, the non-collector's edition. I bought that 5 years ago, maybe, and I could still think about it, because somewhere in my mind, it bothers me that my limited edition Mark Echo's Getting Up does not have a manual in it. So, yeah, I want complete in box even for variants. All right.
All right, there we go.
Johnny, what are you buying and what are you playing?
What am I buying? What are you buying?
Johnny, I basically posted on Instagram all my favorite things that I just got in. I just got in a few boxes from Japan, and the absolute best thing, this was like literally like number 2 game on my want list for a long time, Nobunaga no Yabo.
Been posting some good stuff.
The first release of Nobunaga's Ambition, and I actually have 3 different versions of the PC-88 quote-unquote first release, and that's not even all of them. So it comes in a cassette case with a small box around it. It's a nice, neat little package, and it was pretty hard to find, while I was searching for it, I actually found a folder release of a floppy disk variant that I didn't even know existed. Like, there's not a picture of this other version on the internet. But I found that too. I ended up paying, I think, around $150 for my for this first print Nobunaga no Yabo. And I'd spent 2 years looking for one. I found the cassette, but this is the first one I've ever seen complete in box. And I talked with Tiger Wolf about all these old Koei games because he's like the Koei guy.
Koei guy.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, those come up, whatever. You'll win that. The same seller, first of all, I'm like over the moon to have this. So now I have like all these versions of Nobunaga's Ambition. I just think it's cool. It's an early Koei strategy game. It's a game that most people like myself played on NES and were like, I don't care about rice that much, but I mean, I'll struggle through a little bit and see where this goes. It just goes to rice. It's just all about farming rice and feeding your army. If you haven't played Nobunaga's Ambition, if you like text-based strategy with like one map, you could play some Nobunaga's Ambition. The same seller had Hoi Hoi for sale, which it's a similar deal. It's a very early Koei game that was released on a cassette in a little box. All these kind of Koei games on a cassette in a little box are pretty rare because it's like early 80s computer stuff. This is the original release of Stop That Roach.
So weird.
Like, yeah. It's so Stop That Roach is a Game Boy game where you place traps and try to trap roaches. It's like a kind of puzzle game. It's a turn-based puzzle game that takes place on a grid. This original version of Stop That Roach takes place on a hex grid, Johnny. Different gameplay.
Oh, shit.
So Nobunaga's Ambition, I have heard of people collecting Nobunaga's Ambition games. It's like one of the biggest game franchises of all times. There's like 15 Nobunaga's Ambition main releases. Hoi Hoi, random Koei game that who the hell cares about? I paid like 2 or 3 times as much for it, and it wasn't even something I'm looking for. Tiger Wolf just convinced me like, oh yeah, Hoi Hoi is rare. People are going to want to get that. And the only reason I bid on it is because I like look into it, and it's like kind of an early progenitor of tower defense. So there is like a small place for it in my collecting the history of genres collection. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy a Hoi Hoi too. So now I got the first edition of Stop That Roach, Johnny.
I mean, these are no Shinjin the Ruler, but I understand.
Yes. Let me tell you about 2 things that you're going to care about more, though. Jurassic Park Institute Tour Dinosaur Rescue.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Nice.
Yeah, when we talked about that on the show, I'm like, man, that's a stupid game released at a paleontology exhibition. I need that. Of course, I got the sticker variant.
Ooh, girl.
And then I got a sample Kid Dracula cart for the Famicom, or Akamaja Dracula Special.
I can't believe you bought that and didn't send it to me.
And didn't send it to you?
Mm-hmm.
What if I told... Yeah, so I mean, like, that's cool. I've got... So these are Konami sample cartridges. They're just, like, blank Famicom cartridges that say sample on the front. In terms of the world of, like... You could think of it almost like N64 not for resale games. Like, they're not tremendously rare, and there's a good variety of them out there, but, like, the games that are... Obviously, the good games go for more money. There's the ones you want to collect. And, like, I've got a Contra, I've got a Metal Gear, and now I got a Kid Dracula. So I got, like, a good mix of games going on.
Yeah, you got good stuff.
How do you feel about the fact that, like, I kind of don't like Kid Dracula? Like, it's fine. When I play Kid Dracula, I think of Panic Restaurant, which is a game I also think is kind of overrated.
So my question is, which one is it? Is it Kid Dracula Famicom or Game Boy?
It's Famicom. I've never played the Game Boy one. I don't even know what that is. You see, I think Kid Dracula is maybe more forgivable. I'm sorry to say that. I know there's a lot of fans of this game on Game Boy because it is kind of a slow platform game. Like, Kid Dracula is nothing like playing Super Mario Brothers. There's no run in Kid Dracula. And your sprite is kind of big and clunky because you have to stop to attack. But like on Game Boy, like you don't want a fast game because the screen's just going to blur and become a mess. So I feel like the Game Boy version is probably better. I'm saying it's probably better. Like if you look up a list of like top 20 Famicom games you could play, this will be on like every list. All right, well that's what I bought, Johnny.
Okay. That's pretty good. You bought good stuff. I didn't buy anything good.
Oh. Why?
Hey, you want to know? You want to know the one thing that I'll tell you that I bought? You want to know?
Yeah. I actually want to know the secret things that you won't tell me about, but all right, I'll take the
well,
thing.
I mean,
I'll
tell you. They're just Halloween stuff. So I'm going to start posting that stuff. By the time this episode comes out, you guys are going to be ready. So get ready. Get ready for me to suddenly be back on Instagram posting things every single day. Well, Tyler, I bought a whole lot of red.
I was just going to say, are you just keeping that Game Boy homebrew secret because you want to post it on Instagram? Yeah. You don't want people to know?
No, I did buy that.
Okay.
So that's the one Halloween game I have no idea when this thing will even be delivered. So
I doubt you're going to get it for Halloween.
Yeah, me too. So I don't mind saying that. Normally I don't mention anything until it comes. But I got The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Tyler.
Hey, all right, yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
Pretty cool.
Super exciting. You guys know about this? We've talked about it on the show. What system is it for, Tyler? Do you know which one I got it for?
I'm going to guess you got the Commodore 64 version.
Ooh, no, Apple IIc.
Ooh, hey. All right. You're going...
All right, I guess it's just the Apple II. So I'm not the Apple IIc. Yeah.
Johnny, what's the got all the first release of Hitchhiker's Guide? I actually don't know.
I don't know either.
Okay. Do you want to know? According to Wikipedia, which is very, very bad, it was first released for Apple II, Macintosh, Commodore 64, CPM, DOS, Amiga, Atari 8-bit, and Atari ST. It's a text game. It's probably pretty easy to port.
It's got all the stuff in it. So
but yeah, it comes with you got like your Invisible Space Fleet.
Yep.
You got your Pocket Lint.
Yep.
Did this game cost you? I'm gonna say less than $75.
I feel like this game doesn't go for that much, especially like it's like PC games or Apple II games. The games of this ilk, the pricing is wild. I don't understand it. I was trying to help a friend, like, because he's got some old Sierra games, and I was just like, I don't understand where the price. Like, one time it'll be $75, and then the next day it'll be $20, and I have no discernible difference.
In terms of like just liquidity in computer game markets, it is so much smaller than Nintendo games. Like, there are so many people that want sets of like, I just want every Nintendo game. So there are people who are looking for fucking like Wizard of Oz on Super Nintendo, a game that otherwise no one would ever care about. And just there's no concept of sets on computers, so they're just games that just languish that literally no one wants. I love it. I think it's great. The only reason I didn't bring it up in this episode, like, I could have gone on a whole rant of how computer game prices make no sense next to console games, but I think I hype computer games enough, right?
Computer game prices don't make sense next to themselves. You don't even need to get. Yeah, I can literally look at this game and it's sold for $60. I bought it for $8.
You bought it for $8 with all the stuff?
Yes.
Holy shit! And
it was an open auction.
I was gonna say, like this is a game, like, if you don't know, like, this game comes with a bunch of like joke feely items. Like, the Invisible Space Fleet is an empty Ziploc bag.
Empty bag.
And the other, like, Pocket Lint is like literally a little ball of cotton. And I think there's like shades. It's like a set of cardboard sunglasses. Like, it's junk, but there's a lot of it. It's really easy to find a copy that is missing a few of them. So it's really cool to get a complete box copy of this game. It's a really popular adventure game. My parents played this game. Like, this is like one of the only video games my parents have ever talked to me about.
I mean, Hitchhiker's Guide is awesome, by the way. Just like, it's just an awesome thing. Carly loves it. She loves the movie and the book. The movie, I'm like a little like, but it grows on me all the time. Actually, it grows on me. But we just got a signed book by Douglas Adams, who is no longer with us, which is a shame. But yeah. Hitchhiker's Guide is awesome, so I was like, I'm going to add this to the collection.
Yeah, and you know what? Apple II, correct platform. Even if it's not the first release, I don't care. Apple II is cool, just like I think PC-88 is cool.
Yeah, there you go. So that's my weird, like, could you imagine when I first started doing Collector's Quest if I was telling you, I bought this Apple IIc game? What a weird place I'm in. And that's like the only thing I bought.
Come to the computer side. It's pretty good over here.
I mean, I have some computer games coming. You'll be seeing some for Halloween.
Johnny, what's the best computer game? Like,
Ever?
rarest, no, just in terms of collecting, like the rarest, most desirable, most evergreen, historically important, just the best computer game, period.
That's a lot of different criteria.
Yeah, I want, like, Dennis Kahn goes on about his R's and like relevance, rarity, whatever all the other R's are. I want
the
game that has everything. Day of the Tentacle. You think Day of the Tentacle is the game I could go up to and like have a conversation with like a 15-year-old kid?
No, it's Myst. It's Myst. It's 100% Myst. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Myst is bad. All right, Johnny, the answer is mail order Doom. It's the best one. You know what? It's obviously very personal opinion based.
But I think Myst, I think that's a genre, right? That not everyone got into. I think Myst, everyone played Myst.
Yeah, but Myst is a progenitor of a genre that basically doesn't exist anymore. And Doom is a progenitor of the most popular genre. Not the most.
Doom is more the Metroid to think Myst is Mario.
What the fuck are you talking? All right, here's another thing. Johnny, you can go get a sealed Myst for like $50 because it was literally the best-selling computer game of all time for a long time.
See? Proving my point.
But going back to the rarity, Doom was only available via mail order, and even getting like a nice complete box
because no one cared about it.
All right, here's my point, Johnny. A mail order Doom is somewhere in the range of like $400 to $1,000, maybe, depending on a bunch of factors. You could get like 6 of them for the price of Poop Slinger. It's the best game, and or you could get a Poop Slinger. All right, just wanted to bring up that point.
Okay, I mean, yeah, or think about how many Mysts you could buy.
Oh my fucking God. Why are you like this? You're just like, like I like Myst. I collect Myst. I have like 12 copies of Mysts in the next room, Johnny. And you're still making me argue with you.
I know. I do this. Who was it on the Discord? Was it Tiger Wolf that finally like got onto me? He's like, "Oh, Johnny is a troll. He does troll Tyler." I'm like, "Yeah, I do all the time." And I do because of how our other conversations go. You understand what I'm doing it, but I don't know if our listeners always do.
All right. What are some other answers I'll accept for the best computer game to own ever? I'll accept the original Half-Life. I'm not going to accept Zork. I don't think Zork is as relevant. I feel like a lot of the games I'm going to choose are going to be first-person shooters because that really, especially when you get into the 90s, really took over, and it continues to be popular to this day.
Sure.
I think it's probably harder to get a nice Doom than it is a nice Wolfenstein 3D, as weird as that might be. Or maybe just people don't want that as much. Anyway, anything else we got going on in this episode?
No, I think that's it. I think we did it. All right, Tyler, where can we find you?
I'm on the Instagram and the Discord. I started posting on Instagram again. How cool is that?
Pretty cool.
I'm Default Gen, Default GEN, or Video Game Sage. I don't know. Just find me. You can find me. I'm out there.
Find you on Discord. Find you in Portland coming soon. And I'm Johnny_Iucci on Instagram whenever I'm there. Mainly, I've just been on the Discord. So you can find me on Discord individually if you aren't even part of our Patreon. But if you want to join our specific Discord for the Collector's Quest podcast, you can do that by going to patreon.com/Collector's Quest. You can join for as little as $2 or as much as $6, but really $4 is the best version of that because you get the extra content. But if you just want the Discord where you get to talk to some of the best people in video game collecting, like Tyler, you can join our Discord for that. So if you're interested, if not, don't worry about it. Anyways, that's it for the show. Oh, our other host who wasn't here, you can find him. Google The Art of NP. He's mainly on Twitter, but he's also on Instagram, and he's everywhere. He will also be in Portland. That's Stefan. So that's it for the show. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, when you're thinking about the price of a game, think about what it means to you and how the market is a schizophrenic person with multiple personalities, and it could be doing anything. So be wary, be cautious, and decide for yourself. That's it. Bye!
That is our show. Errata for the show. I actually missed a point I wanted to make about Mega Man. Mega Man's box art is iconic. And yes, it's iconically bad, but that's still another point of notoriety for Mega Man that it has over Gotcha Force. Thank you to 8-Bit. 8bit.bandcamp.com. Like the monkey, he does our intro music. And thank you to the patrons Richard, patron #1 voting, Canadian variant alert, Chris Glidden, Nintendo World Champion, Daniel Jacksvik, high-end collector, Andrew Brim, greetings stranger, I'm not surprised to see Andrew Shelton around here. 50 Hertz is good enough for me, Andre, video games were meant to be slabbed, Brandon Ackley, Brian Gupta, and Pocky and Rocky with Becky, the strictly limited super rare Bruno, coin-operated Cameron Couch, Fat Cat Collector, Chris Jackson, Chris SNK, Too Many in SSS Morozek. That's the new nickname. It's too hard to say. Johnny's GBA Hookup, Coffee with Mr. Saturn, Playing with Power, Connor Strange, The Last Game You Need for the Set, Corey O'Brien, Unpunched Hang Tab, Dustin Beagle, He Has Returned to Judge This City, Eric Addison, What Are You Buying? GBO Metric, The Actual Shinobi, Jasonic the Kid, Red Pyramid Thing, Jonathan Shadows, Joseph Garris, he's just out there having a good time, achieving his goals. Proud of you. The Nintendo Tape Archivist, Joseph Leo, The Chosen Undead, Joshua Gelb, Lance, Lord Hardstyle Z, Commander Mark Halstead, and this is his favorite store on the Citadel. The Degenerate, Matt Fall, Mint Condition, Mora Bros, Mr. Sib, get your loose Genesis carts out of here. Nicholas Mad Dog McCree DiMaggio, Focoland employee, platform agnostic, Red the Game Shark. The Famicom Box, retro game enthusiast, they could beat Ghost and Goblins twice, Chefish, Sean, the Gamer Collective, the Newcraft, who could beat Mega Man without the pause trick. No one has a Gotcha Force nickname. Meanwhile, the Newcraft is chilling here. Not only does he have a Mega Man nickname, but there's an iconic glitch in Mega Man where to beat the yellow guy. What's the yellow guy's name? I can't even remember. Mega Man Yellow Devil, is that it? Mega Man Yellow Devil. Okay, so yeah, Yellow Devil in Mega Man. You shoot a weapon at him, and then you pause the game, and you keep pausing and unpausing it. Every time you unpause it, it does an additional frame of damage to him. And it's like far and away the easiest way to beat this boss. It's an iconic glitch. Gotcha Force has nothing. Mega Man has an iconic glitch. Previously unknown variant, Tim Walker. From the internet, Todd Fisher. Can't put limits on collecting. VG Collectaholic. The Millennium. Will Joe. Keeper of the Zelda variant. 0x Dev Code. Previous game collector, Adam Kavanaugh. Getting the full PS2 set because Stefan won't. All caps. No gods or kings. Only Andy Lancaster. What a 9.8 A++ Benji. The actually rare Bird Dog Gaming. Dropping the Mario 64 Penguin off the map. Brandon Chalker. Brandon Rogers, whose favorite episode is the wrestling episode. Christopher Piper, still shaking from what he found at Goodwill. Still finding deals in 2022. Colton Murphy. A winner is him. David Green. Derek Lauer, who made me edit this show. Don Libby, the hero of time. Double Ugly presents Double Ugly, the official game of the movie, actually understands the Zelda timeline. Jeff Pierce, Jeff the Game Boy Ferris, he is Error, Jeff Russell, Jeremy Jarvis here for the Pog Talk, Jeremy Matson, and the Order of No Quarter. Joe actually plays his games Champity, video game art collector because video games are art. Justin Chachio, Kevin Zylog Z80 Zaker, Strand Type Game, Chris Shipley, Lateral Movement, who's got a Donkey Kong kill screen coming up. What a horrible night to have living in bits! Nick the Video Game Database, Morgan, Homebrew Mastermind, Divertov, Off the Map, NZ Collector, the other guy who I'm changing your name, like literally right now. The primary guy who collects Korean releases, Peaceful Games. He keeps posting like Korean sets in the Discord. It's like, all right. I mean, if I have a question about Korean games, I'm going to Peaceful Games. Dungeon Master, Reed Stubenik, The Promoter, Retro RPG Podcast, Tex, who collects for Jaguar, Tom, Obscure Variant, Chaser Chase, Saventorian, he knows all 97 Nintendo games, 32 bits or less, do the math! Andrew, actually collecting Engage O, Ben Parker, a bad enough dude to rescue the president, Chesno, all your base are belong to him, Colby, he is Sinistar, Corhagen does what Nintendo don't, Daniel McArdle, who thought this was the Retronauts Patreon, the Modern Database, Danny Gomez, Darius Sadat, welcome to Die! The Philatelist, Dork Overlord, My Childhood PlayStation Idol, Game-Rave.com, Rip and Tear, Jackson Q. Okay. I dug up Game Rave's old Digipress Room of Doom pictures. They're his collection photos from 2005. And man, so he's sold off since then, but his collection in 2005 was insane. Like, he said his goal was to own every video game. And at 2005 prices, when everything was really cheap, he was well on his way to doing that. I mean, his collection is still crazy because he kept the good stuff. PlayStation 1, what am I saying? Yeah, go to, what is it? Just look up Room of Doom or Rooms of Doom Digipress on Google, and there's the brilliant archives. They've got archives going back to like 2001 of just like old video game collections. It's super cool. But like the way people collected 20 years ago was a lot different than collections you see now. So I just think it's really interesting. I was in the middle of a Rip and Tear Jackson Kubler. He is 8-Bit John Brown. Joseph Rogers got 50,000 on Double Dragon. Collector of everything, including Atari. Kalen McAteer. Video game console modding guy. MP3. Sam. Sega Mark III. Marks. Sean. The video game Illuminati LaCroix. And Hedgemon of the Geek Empire. Valdor the Great. Thank you guys so much.